Welcome to 12 Ounce Sports Radio and The Burn with Mitch Show. Here's your host, Mitch Bernstein.
Well, good evening, everybody. Welcome to The Burn with Mitch on 12 Ounce Sports Network. This is Tuesday, April 20th. We have had a glorious day here in the Philadelphia area. Speaking to you from the area where it was 75 degrees today, this is your host, Mitch Bernstein. Welcome to the program. Glad you could be here. We have a little bit of a different show this evening because I have a couple of recorded interviews that I will play for you that specific fans of specific teams will be interested in, that being the Phillies and that being the Philadelphia 76ers. So let me delve into what we're going to be doing tonight. At 6:15, we've got a gentleman from Reviewing the Brew, and that is continuing our MLB roundup, talking about the National League Central team Milwaukee Brewers, who are off to a pretty decent start. Going to find out from David Gasper, who will be on with us, to find out what he thinks. Is this a surprise? Are they surprised at how well they're doing right now? And get his thoughts on what he thinks is going to happen with this Brewers team as this season progresses in this National League Central, where I don't know that any team will run away with it. So we'll talk to David in about 13 minutes about his Milwaukee Brewers. That'll be followed up by an interview I did with Mark Zumoff, play-by-play announcer for the 76ers, at about 6:50. Caught up with Mark after a game, and I apologize, these interviews are late. I wanted to get these on earlier in March, but we had a little snafu. Couldn't get him on. Decided to play these interviews, this first one with Mark Zumoff this evening. Caught him after a game that the Sixers won against the Knicks it was a 3-point game. It was a very interesting and fun, exciting game, and I've actually caught Mark in the car while he was driving home. So we talked about the Sixers back then, and then my third guest this evening again is a recorded interview I did in spring training. So this will be kind of interesting to review what Matt Gelb, beat writer for the Phillies, said about the Phillies in spring training. And I don't know that we talked much about center field except for Odubel Herrera. And hey, he might be the one that they need, that some people don't want. But you know what? For a gazillion from their center field position right now. And it's bad. It's bad. So they need... They need to be doing something, and he's there. Nobody else is available. Mickey Moniak, number one pick 3 or 4 years ago, can't seem to make any contact. Adam Hazley left the team. Kingery is still trying to hone his swing. Roman Quinn can't hit the broadside of a barn, so it's really an interesting and sad situation. There was a part of me that said in spring training, Jackie Bradley Jr. was available. Just go spend the money and get him. And, where would they be now with Jackie Bradley Jr. playing center field? Well, they'd be a hell of a lot better shape than they are right now. So we'll be listening to an interview that Matt Gelb and I talked about. He, too, was driving home on that day. He was heading up to home from spring training. So look forward to talking to... it was a great conversation I had with both of them, and we'll be playing those interviews later this evening. So let me go on a quick rant, and then we'll go on... I do some shout-outs, because I have a couple of shout-outs that I want to give. So, and it is basically about this team here that played Major League Baseball in this town, Philadelphia. They just suck at men on base. It's ridiculous. I don't know why these guys can't even make contact. I mean, the guy last night, Gosman, had a really good for the Giants, had a really good splitter. Um, but you know what? If you know it's coming, lay off the damn pitch. I mean, I don't know. I can't wait to talk to Cody Decker, who's coming on the show, former Major League player, and talk about hitting. You know, what's the thought process when you go up against a guy who's got a good splitter? Does that mean you got to be more disciplined at the plate? How are you seeing the ball? Are you guessing? Are you a guess hitter, or are you actually seeing the spin of the ball coming in? And I know you've heard about some players who are guess hitters. I don't know how they become successful with their guess hitters. I'm guessing that as a major league ball player, with that ball coming in 95 miles an hour, your eyes, to be a good hitter, you got to be trained to be able to see what's coming out of the hand and what are the tendencies. Are they doing video in the dugouts or before the games and looking at tendencies with these pitchers? It's absolutely insane and it's disgusting. And then our number 4 and number 5 pitchers. Our Chase Anderson pitched okay last night, but this Matt Moore guy, I don't know how much further we can take him. And then this lovely team of talent evaluators are telling us that good old Vinny Velasquez, who we really don't like, is going to start a game probably on Saturday. Well, we'll be lucky if he gets out of the first inning. Let's hope this Phillies team can get going. The only positive, I mean, Harper's hitting the ball really well. There was a article on MLB.com today that came out. 30 teams, 30 stats to stand out. Harper's OPS, let me get to it here. Harper's OPS is 994. He's been on fire. He had a couple of balls held up in the wind in one game a couple nights ago, this past weekend. He's walking more, not striking out as much. He's putting the ball in play, hitting it hard, which is great. Everybody else has got to take his lead and do the same damn thing. It's just frustrating watching your team when they can't hit, and especially with runners in base. Runners in scoring position, left on base. Sickening. So that's my Philadelphia Phillies rant for the evening. Shout out time. My nephew Ben. Ben, are you listening? Cardinals fan. Hey, we beat the Cardinals 2-3. How about that, Ben? But Ben had a birthday. Ben had a milestone birthday. My nephew Ben, Cardinal fan, number 30 on April 15th. Happy birthday, Ben. Look forward to seeing you sometime soon. Maybe in a ballpark. Hey, that'd be kind of fun, wouldn't it? But happy birthday, Ben. Brian Oakes, who was supposed to be with us last week, a stadium artist that paints stadiums. Great work. Brian couldn't be with us last week. He had a minor family emergency. Everything is okay. So shout out to him as a good son to go take care of his dad, and I hope his dad is feeling better. Glad you guys are doing well, and Brian, we will reschedule at some point. But you did a good thing. You did what you had to do. You went and took care of your dad, and from what I understand, Dad is doing fine, recovering, and that's great. Last but not least, a couple 3 weeks ago, I had Ellen Adair. She's got an obsession with baseball that she says is really kind of crazy, and it is. Phillies are her home team, her favorite team, but she is one who likes baseball. She loves to watch unique individual players perform at their highest level. Phillies number one priority, but she's she will wear a Laureano, and I think she put this up there, jersey, and she posted it on Twitter because she was stealing bases like crazy. So she's just like that. She loves baseball, as I do. So Ellen does a victory dance after the Phillies win. We wish we would see more of those. Um, and I asked her, I said, wouldn't it be nice? Wouldn't it be kind of fun to have a victory dance contest? And she said, no, we'll see. And I did a poll, and um, the majority said yes, we should do it. So, folks, announcement: we will be running a victory dance contest. Prizes, good prizes, really good prizes will be awarded. Rules will be posted sometime this week about what we're looking for and how to enter and what the entry deadline is. What I'm going to do, and you'll hear me ask David Gasper from the Reviewing the Brew in just a few minutes, we're going to ask him to help get the word out about this contest. Wouldn't it be cool if we got one person, minimally one person from every team, to enter the contest as a victory with their victory dance, and then we will have a pool of judges to determine first, second, and third place. And again, good prizes. Not you're not getting a bag of M&Ms. You're going to get something really, really baseball-ish for your team. So word will get out to those who I've spoken to on my show, beat writers, folks who are fans of these teams, the people that I've spoken with, and we'll see if we can get some folks entered. Love to get I mean, hey, I would love to get a minimum of 50. That would be great. It'd be kind of fun. And we can post these and then post the winner and hand out prizes or deliver prizes or mail prizes out. That would be a lot of fun. So think about that. If you're listening, get your dancing shoes on. Be looking for on Twitter about the rules and, like I said, how to enter and the entry deadline. By the end of the week, we'll get those up. We'll tweet that out, and we'll get it all going. It should be a lot of fun. All right, so coming up from Reviewing the Brew, we're going to talk to David Gasper, and I hope I'm pronouncing David's name properly. Talk about the National League Central. Get his thoughts about his team, and I'm just going to pull up right now. They're playing in San Diego. They are 9-7. Looking at the standings in the National League Central, looking at the Reds at 9-6, the Brewers at 9-7, Cardinals at 8-8, the Pirates at 7-9, hanging in there, and the Cubbies at 6-9. So, obviously early, still very early, but everybody's holding their own there. We're going to get his thoughts. Now, interestingly enough, this Milwaukee Brewers team is 5-2 away from home. They're 4-5 at home. They've got a run differential of a +16, so they are scoring runs. The Reds are at +24. They're killing the ball. So it's been it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. I don't know that there is one team that is going to, run away with this. I think it might just be, as things go now, it could be a 3-team race. So we shall see. Again, we know injuries play a big part of this, and who wins and who comes out on top. And if you can generally stay healthy, especially with your pitching staff, you're going to have a shot to be in a divisional race through the end of the season. So it's going to be that division interesting. Look at the National League East; everybody's still bunched up. And the West, the Rockies are already 8.5 games out. So you know what? And the Diamondbacks are 6.5. So again, the West, we had people on, we had reporters on from the Padres, the Giants, and the Dodgers. Thoughts were Dodgers are going to run away with it, but if the Giants can keep close, as will the Padres, that could come down to a fun divisional race towards the end of the season. So should be very, very fun as we go forward. Of course, I don't know if you heard out there, the Phillies have now gotten three players on the COVID list, which is not good. In addition to some coaches, so let's hope that that doesn't affect them much at all going forward. And we're getting ready to hear from David Gasper from Reviewing the Brew. He's going to call in within minutes, maybe seconds, to talk about those Milwaukee Brewers. And I want to hear a little bit about that stadium because I want to get there. That looks like a fun place to watch a ball game. Was in the old Milwaukee County Stadium years and years ago. A nice place your basic baseball stadium back in the day. But this looks like it's a lot of fun. So we're going to hear from David in just a few minutes. I want to make a little note here about talking about the stadium. Okay, let's see. Where is he? Whoopsie. I got to fix my... Where is he? Oh, he's calling in. All right, I'm going to have to give him a call because my thing is messing up here. I'm going to give him a call. My computer is playing games here, so I'm going to give him a call right now. Okay, we know that. I'm going to give him a call. Hold on a minute, folks. Thank you for your patience. And we'll be with you in just a minute as I dial him up. Here we go. Hello, is this David? Sorry, David. For some reason, my computer didn't show me that you were calling, and I got a message on my phone. So thank you for doing that. I apologize, and I'm glad you're with me. How are you?
I'm doing good, man.
Good. How was your weather today in Wisconsin?
It's a little chilly, man.
Oh.
It kind of always is around here. You got some snow around the area. Not quite here, but some places are.
Oh, no snow, David. No, get rid of that stuff. You don't need that now.
I want to.
God, listen, I don't want to make you mad, but we had a gorgeous day in Philadelphia here today. I think we're getting what you have tomorrow. Is it raining there at all, or is it just cold?
No, just kind of cold. Nothing really raining right now.
Okay. All right, good. Well, you'll get through it. It's April. Going to baseball games in April, especially up north, can be a little bit unpleasant. I know that because I've been in Chicago. I lived in Chicago for several years. So Wrigley and Comiskey Park back in the day were not fun in the wind and the cold. But let's talk about your Milwaukee Brewers. What are you thinking so far, David?
Yeah, so far, they've gotten off to a pretty good start. Had a big win last night against the Padres there. Had a couple of big series wins against the Cubs and the Cardinals. It was kind of a slow start offensively for most of the team, but some heroes that maybe weren't expecting. Travis Shaw, probably the best non-roster invitee so far to start the year. You got Avisel Garcia, Omar Narvaez, really having strong starts to the season. Luis Urias, he's been hitting pretty well over the last week. And the starting rotation has really just kind of been dominant for the Brewers. Brandon Woodruff and Corbin Burns have been a great 1-2 punch, and Freddie Peralta has been pitching well. Adrian Hauser and Brett Anderson have been putting up good numbers too. So it's a really good group. No one in there has an ERA higher than 3.14. So it's really kind of been the strength of the staff or the strength of the team, and yeah, it's just been really, really fun to watch.
Yeah, I saw, I was mentioning before you came on, MLB.com today put out an article about 30 teams, 30 stats that stand out. Brewers starting pitcher, this is the stat for the Brewers, they have a 29% strikeout rate. They mentioned that the pitchers, Burns is 48.4, He's second among the National League qualifiers. Peralta is sixth at 40.3. Woodruff is 17th at 29.2. It's here's the question, David. Can they keep this up? I mean, crazy numbers.
Yeah, I mean I don't know if they'll be keeping everything at this level over the course of the whole season, but I mean some of these things are really kind of legit. The dominance that we're seeing from Burnes and from Woodruff. Woodruff has struck out 30 batters so far, and he hasn't allowed a single walk in his first 3 starts. So
really, no walks.
Yeah, not a single walk, 30 strikeouts. First pitcher to do that since 1906, which I think is just the longest that they kept records of it. So it's been an incredible run that he's been on. Brandon Woodruff last night had 18 of 22 first pitch strikes. And, really just they've assembled a really strong, very young starting rotation with those 2 guys. And then Peralta and Anderson, who's more of the veteran, and then Hauser. So they've got a really strong group there. I think it's going to be the strength of the team throughout the season. I don't know if they're going to have a rotation ERA of 2.0 throughout the entire season, but it's going to be the strength of the team for sure.
Yeah, I'm looking at the stats of the team right now, and listen, it's funny. We here in Philadelphia are having a situation that we need to call somebody out on, because this center field position, I think, again, since 1906, center fielder hasn't had a hit in, like, I forget, I don't even know the number, and this is since 1906. Again, like, they haven't had a hit in 13 games or something. And I was saying to myself, and to a few others during the offseason, Jackie Bradley Jr. might cost, but wouldn't it be beneficial? Now, he's not hitting right now, but come on, it's Jackie Bradley Jr., right?
Mm-hmm. Well, Jackie Bradley's on a 8-game hitting streak, I think. So, he's been pretty good. He's been getting on a little bit of a hot streak, and the overall numbers, may not look that pretty, but he's been heating up a little bit. But yeah, I think he really kind of would have been helpful there out in Philly, and certainly with the injuries that the Brewers have had, he's been really helpful in Milwaukee with Kane going down with the quad injury and Yelich with the back injury.
Yeah,
being able to have him has really been great, and the defense that he provides is just spectacular. So, yeah, I was really kind of surprised that Jackie Bradley lasted that long on the free agent market, but the Brewers are certainly happy to have him.
Yeah. So tell me, my first question is, who have you been pleasantly surprised by?
Yeah, so for the pleasant surprises, I think you don't have to look much further than Travis Shaw.
Yeah.
He was someone who, he had some really good years in 2017 and 2018 with the Brewers. And then in 2019, it really kind of all fell apart for him. He started off in a slump. It spiraled on him mentally, started pressing, and he really just kind of put himself in a bad situation. And it was a really tough one to get out of. Ended up getting non-tendered, signed with the Blue Jays last year, and was able to kind of get out of Milwaukee for a little bit, kind of clear his head, work on some new things, and get himself into a good spot going forward. And now he's back, and he's using some of those same things that he learned in the last year or so, and he's looking like his old self, and he's been looking really good, and he's come up in some big spots, and he's come through. He's, I think, top 5 in the league in RBIs at the moment, and he's leading the Brewers in RBIs. So he's been in the heart of the order. He's been having some big moments, and he's been coming through. So it's been great to see from him. It's good to see for him, because Travis Shaw is he's a great guy to he's just a great guy in general, great guy to have on the team, in the clubhouse, with the fan base. Just a really great overall dude. So really happy for him to see him having this kind of success.
Yeah, he's 13 RBIs in 15 games. You really can't complain about that too much. That's just awesome. Who else? Anybody else surprising you?
Well, right now the kind of negative surprise is Keston Hiura, who has started the season in a huge slump. It's almost a Shaw 2019 level slump. It's really kind of been rough to watch. I mean, he's missing 89, 90 mile an hour straight fastballs down the middle. He's not even fouling them off. So it's something with his timing. We talked to I talked to former Brewers player and former pro scout about him, and it's just, his timing is off, and he's starting to get a little bit closer, and it's tough mentally because you see your batting average, you see your stats and your numbers, you see it out of the corner of your eye, and that can press on you as we now get to 3 weeks into the regular season. So I think he's going to need to see something soon if he's going to be able to prevent himself from getting into a really bad state. He's shown some signs, he's shown some flashes of getting there, but he hasn't quite put it all together for a hot stretch yet.
Yeah, I'm looking at his stats too. He's got 20 strikeouts in 14 games. Sounds like my Phillies. It's. I mean, it's really tough because listen, he was a great player. I mean, 60 games last year. How many did he play last year? Was he in the lineup all season last year?
Keston? Yeah. He was in the lineup pretty much every single day.
Yeah. So it's got to be hard. I mean, it is such a mental thing, and you start pressing, and you're wondering, you start doing things, swinging too hard, or and when you and I know that are you an athlete, David, at some point of any sport, right?
I used to be. I don't know what I am now, but
okay. But you used to. What did you play? What did you used to play?
Baseball.
Yeah. Okay. So slump time, right? You start thinking, what the hell am I doing? Why can't I hit the damn ball? And it is even at a level for me when I played amateur senior league baseball. It's like, what the hell am I doing? And I figured at one point I figured it out because I can make contact. But at one point I figured it out. It was my brain saying to me, instead of saying just try and hit the ball, I was saying you got to get a hit. And immediately that put the pressure on me, isn't it though? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's especially at that. Of course, at this level, they're playing for their jobs basically. So, but he's got the talent. It's there. It's just a matter of fixing it. So how serious is Christian Yelich's injury? It's back, right?
Yeah, it's a back. It probably won't be too much more than the minimum stint on the IL. They were kind of getting close to bringing him back, and then it just kind of, they just kind of decided he's already been out for 5-6 days, just put on the IL and get some help in some other parts of the roster. So I really don't think it should be too much longer than the minimum 10 days, which, given his back date, will probably be this weekend. Should be when he's coming back, and Colton Wong should be back in the next series there against Chicago. So they're starting to get a little bit healthier, but it's still not quite there yet.
Yeah. I mean, and how old is Christian? Is he 33?
He is 29.
So he's still only 29. Season. Okay.
Yeah.
Golly. And I'm looking again at his stats. I mean, he's unfortunate because he was 10 for 30. He's only played 9 games, but he was hitting the ball. I mean, he was doing Christian Yelich stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, he's a great player, and it's a shame to watch these players get hurt so early, which is too bad.
Mm-hmm.
It hurts. All right. Any other disappointments that you are looking at right now that you expected at this point? 15 games in, you expected more from, whether it's pitching or fielding or hitting?
I mean, not really. I mean, it's really kind of, for the most part, outside of the injuries, things are going kind of as expected, except for Hira. And he's had some of his struggles defensively at first base for this transition there, but I think he's starting to get the hang of it. Mistakes are going to happen, but it really hasn't overall been too bad for him over at first base. But other than that, I mean, the rotation's been doing really well, and the bullpen, it'd be nice to have some more trusted arms back there with Justin Topa going down, and Devin Williams isn't quite back to 100% right now because he had a shoulder injury that limited him in spring training. He only had a few outings there in spring,
mm-hmm.
So he hasn't been what he was last year, which was otherworldly out of the bullpen. So he's still trying to hone in on his command this year. But, I think he'll end up finding it. He just needs more of the reps and just kind of throwing on a regular schedule. And eventually he'll be in those big spots all throughout the season. So his stuff is just too nasty. So, as long as he's got that command of it down and is able to hone in on that, he'll be fine.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned before, again, an issue that I have with this Phillies team, the importance of throwing first pitch strikes. I mean, we saw it with Aaron Nola this past weekend. He typically doesn't start in September really well. But what was really cool was to see him fix it this past weekend with that complete game. Complete game. Are you kidding me? Who's the last pitcher that you've seen pitch a complete game? I mean, it was amazing, and he was, his ball was moving, the curveball was moving. It was just, he was mixing it up in and out. He was hitting the corners all day. So it's fun to watch. But it's also fun to watch him, and he knew what he needed to do. He was not getting on top of the ball, and you could kind of tell when you were watching him before. It was kind of coming from the side, and nothing was biting. But who do you love to watch pitch on this Milwaukee Brewers team?
Corbin Burnes, man, all day long, and he's pitching tonight. I mean, it's just been a masterclass in terms of pitching, just what he's been doing this year. I'm also the self-proclaimed leader of the conductor of the Corbin Burnes for Cy Young hype train.
Okay.
It's been insane what he's been putting up, and like I was telling you before, with the 30 strikeouts and no walks.
Yeah.
And he hasn't allowed more than 2 base runners in either of his games, or in any of his games so far. And he's got no hit stuff, and he's got the ability to go deep now. He's got his command. He's throwing strikes, and he's just been dicing up hitters, and they just look so uncomfortable. And he's got 5 or 6 weapons, 5 or 6 pitches in his arsenal that he can throw as a strike in any count to any hitter, lefty, righty, doesn't matter. It's so much fun to watch Corbin Burnes pitch. And, I've seen this coming for a couple years now. He had the big hiccup in 2019, but he's really been putting it together since August of last year, since he rejoined the rotation. He's been statistically the best starting pitcher in baseball, I believe, looking at a whole bunch of the numbers. So, he's just an incredibly fun pitcher to watch, just dicing guys up. And Corbin Burnes is just the guy to watch. If you haven't seen him yet, you
we haven't.
Take the opportunity to do so.
Yeah.
He'll be on Pitching Ninja's Twitter account all night long with the pitches that he throws.
It's so much fun to watch a pitcher who's like an artist, who is so on. It's just a joy to watch. I'm looking at numbers also. Freddie Peralta's got 31 strikeouts. He's 2-0, and now his issue is the walks. He's given up too many walks. 12 ratio isn't bad, but it's 12 walks, 31 strikeouts. But again, he's another one. I mean, were you expecting, David, before the season starts, were you really hyped about this team and the starting rotation?
Yeah, I absolutely was, and
Okay.
I've seen this coming from Peralta too. I mean, he's a guy that I've always believed could be a really good starter in this league. I mean, he's been so young in his previous opportunities. He's still just 24 years old, and I mean, for him, he's finally got all the pitches now. Previously, when he's been in the rotation, he's been operating with about 1 or 1.5 pitches. He's got a couple different variations of his fastball. Then he had a curveball that he also threw in occasionally, but he was about 75% fastballs. But now he's added a slider to the mix, one that he modeled off Trevor Bauer's. He's got the curveball. He's also got a changeup. So he's got a 4-pitch mix now, and he's really been using that to his advantage. He's been upping his slider usage, cutting down on his fastball usage, and it's shown in the results that he's got. And the last step for him is that command and being able to throw strikes more often, not fall behind in counts, not get into deep counts, and cut down on that pitch count, cut down on those walks. That's going to be the final step for him, as it's normally the final step in most pitchers' developments. But yeah, I was really excited about Peralta, thinking he could really cement himself as a member of this rotation coming into the season. I was excited for Woodruff and Burns as a 1-2 punch in this rotation. And I think Hauser and Anderson are really going to succeed with the strong infield defense behind them and the strong overall defense behind them, with Luis Urias at short and Colton Wong when he's healthy at second. Travis Shaw is a really good defender at third. And then in the outfield, you got a whole bunch of Gold Glovers and Jackie Bradley and Lorenzo Cain and Christian Yelich. So I think it's a really exciting team, and one that maybe the national media sleeps on.
Oh,
but
absolutely,
they really can contend if they get that hitting right and get Hira and everyone going offensively. They're going to be tough to stop.
So, and we're going to get to that in just a bit. We want to talk about the division. Let me ask you about your stadium. I was thinking about this before you came on, because I haven't been there yet. I was at the old stadium, Milwaukee County Stadium, many years ago. Tell me about your stadium. Do you love it?
Oh yeah, I absolutely love it, and it's going to be tough not calling it Miller Park anymore. Now it's American Family Field. So sometimes I'll.
Yeah, right.
Fans were not receptive to that name change when they first announced that. So, yeah, no, it's a beautiful ballpark. I mean, you got the retractable roof, the fan style retractable roof. So we're always able to play no matter what the weather is, no matter the cold, the snow, whatever it is. Inside, it's going to be a cool, 70-some degrees.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's really great in there. They redid, Bernie's Chalet, the mascot going down the slide on every single home run. But just really a beautiful park, and just being back there and seeing everyone for the first time in like 18 months was really awesome. Being back there on opening day.
Yep.
But yeah, a lot of really great stuff there. Love the field. Love the people. Love just kind of being at the ballpark, and really a great place to go. Great view of the game, pretty much no matter where you're sitting, and really just a fun ballpark to go to.
I have to tell you a funny story I just thought of. So when my wife and I went to the ballpark one night, it was a really hot night in the summer. I go up to get into the concession stand, and you may not believe this, but and I'm not a beer drinker, so it didn't bother me. In the 7th inning, they weren't shutting off the beer. Or maybe it was the 6th. I don't know. There was no beer. People were like, "What do you mean no beer? This is Miller Park. This is where you make beer." We had no beer. David, I was laughing. I went back to my seat. My wife, I said, "You're not going to believe this. They have no more beer." People were going nuts. It was crazy. That was a fond memory of Milwaukee County Stadium. I'm sure that will never happen again.
No, I'm sure they remedied that situation.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
I think you run out of beer. 2 quick questions I forgot to ask you. One I forgot to ask you. How is Josh Hader doing?
Josh Hader's doing good. He's been pitching really well. He's pitching in the 9th inning. He's in that more traditional closer's role this year. And he's looking good. He had 100 miles an hour on opening day.
He did.
The velocity's there. He's got the slider that he's mixing in, and he's been off to a hot start this year.
Isn't it amazing how many of these guys are throwing 100 now? It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. I mean, you've been watching Josh for a while. Here in Philly, we haven't had one for a while. We've got like 3 or 4 of them now. Relievers that are throwing 100 miles an hour. And last night, I think it was Coonrod who came in, and he had control. That was the best thing. We don't have Luis Alvarado right now because he's on the COVID list, but he's got kind of a quirky windup and delivery, and when he goes to 98 and 99, it's interesting. He's more he's got more command, and when he hits that 100, 101, he just tends to be a little wild. But isn't it crazy watching these guys all pitch? Well, not all, but hit that 100, that 100 on the scoreboard mark? It's nuts to me.
Yeah. The Brewers got a whole bunch of electric dudes back there. I mean, you got Hader that can throw upper 90s. You got Angel Perdomo now in there that can throw upper 90s. Drew Rasmussen, 6th-round pick back in 2018, former first-rounder of the Rays. He can throw 99, 100. Devin Williams can throw 97, 98. So they got a whole bunch of electric dudes back there in that bullpen. And then you got a guy like Brent Suter who tops out at about 87.
Right.
And just kind of bringing him to follow a guy like Woodruff and Burns. And Woodruff and Burns on their own can hit, 97, 98 with regularity. So
right.
it's just, an incredible switch for a lot of these guys.
It is, isn't it? It's nuts. All right, two more things. One the last thing will be on a lighter note. So your division, as you said, there is no reason why, and I'm looking at it, and from the beginning of the year, we know the Cubs and Pirates, well, the Pirates are definitely not going to be in it at the end. Cubs, probably not. Yeah, I mean, to me, it was always going to be. I mean, who knows what's going to happen to Cincinnati? But they're scoring runs like crazy early. We're looking at the Reds, the Brewers, and the Cardinals. 3-team race. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that's probably what it's going to come down to. I mean, the Reds have gotten off to a hot start. I'm not sure how sustainable it's going to be on that type of offensive production. And they traded off a couple of guys in the offseason, Marcelo Iglesias and a few others. So, the Reds might, be sticking around for a while, but really I think it's probably going to come down to the Brewers and the Cardinals. Those two teams really kind of going at it. The Cubs really seem to have fallen off. The Pirates aren't really going to contend this year.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really putting the Cubs in a very tough situation because all their guys are going to be free agents at the end of the year, and none of them are really hitting that well. Really no one in that entire Cubs offense is hitting very well. So, it's a tough spot for them as an organization now.
Mm-hmm.
But I think for the division, it's the Brewers and the Cardinals, and then the Reds might be slightly below.
Right.
But then the Pirates and the Cubs are down there at the end.
Yeah. I'm thinking it's obviously the same thing. Again, for some reason, those damn Cardinals somehow stay in these races all the freaking time. And I can't.
Yeah, it's the Cardinal Devil Magic, as we call it.
That's what it is, isn't it? I like the term. Thank you for that. Cardinal Devil Magic. It is, isn't it crazy? They're in it every freaking year. With who? I mean, they got a couple of guys now, right? They got Arenado. I don't know that their pitching is going to hold up. That's the whole thing for me. That they're gonna...
And then you got a guy like Tommy Edman who comes out of nowhere. It's like I've never heard of this guy, and all of a sudden he's hitting 290 and he's making all these great defensive plays and coming up with clutch hits, and it's like, who are you?
Exactly. It's interesting. It's very interesting. That's why we love baseball, because I know for me, looking at these new kids, whether it's on the Phillies or any team, and you get these highlights and you look at, who the hell is this? But how cool, what a great play. Those kinds of things, you never know where that kid's going to come from. Now, who was hitting the home runs? Was it for Minnesota last week? And it came up, the kid, Merman, right? What's his name? Oh,
I don't know.
Oh, I forget. I mean, this kid, he's been in the minor leagues all his life. He comes up and he starts hitting home runs like crazy, hitting doubles. I mean, it's nuts, and it's just a fun story to follow when you see this happening. All right, one last thing. I have a Phillies fan here in the area. Well, she's in New York. She's an actor. Her name is Ellen Adair. She is a crazy, crazy baseball and mostly Phillies fan. But she loves everybody. I mean, she would probably put on a Christian Yelich shirt if Christian Yelich did something great, or Corbin Burns. She's that type of person. After the Phillies win every game, she does a victory dance. She has this victory dance videotaped, recorded. And she puts it on her Twitter account, and you see her dance. We are thinking. I did a poll. I asked her. I said, "Don't you think this would be kind of fun if we get people to do their own victory dances, and we would give out prizes?" I'm going to ask you. Would you be able to, if we send this information out, can I send this to you and you can send it to your followers to enter the contest to show your victory dance? We're going to send out rules and things on my Twitter feed by the end of the week, and put it out there. But would you be able to retweet that for me and get some fans from Milwaukee to do a victory dance? You're quiet.
Sure.
You're quiet.
You know,
Come on, David, get with the program here. Let's go.
I mean, we got a victory screech that we do on our Twitter accounts. But,
oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah. We use the SpongeBob GIF, you know, the victory screech, and everyone all there, and yeah. So we got kind of that thing going on. But I mean, yeah, I can give you a retweet there.
All right, that'd be great. So because they can add the screech to the end of the video, whatever. My daughter's listening. She does my social media for me on here. I'm going to tell her right now that I'm probably going to have to do a dance, and I can see her rolling her eyes right now, going, "Oh my God, no, Dad, no." But I have my finishing move, and I'm not going to tell anybody what it is. But no, that'd be great. I think it'd be kind of fun, and we're going to give out prizes. I mean, it'll be good prizes. It won't be like I said in the intro before the show. It won't be like a bag of M&Ms or candy. It'll be some really basic. Whoever wins it, we will try and get them like some fan gear from their team. So if you would help out with that, that would be awesome.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, David, we got to be more excited than that, please. Come on. Be more excited. You're probably not a dancer. That's why you're not excited. I get it. I'm not either. But you'll help me out. That's a great thing. All right, listen. Thank you so much for being on and calling. I really appreciate it. A terrific amount of knowledge about your team, which is great because, you know, for me, I love learning about and hearing about these guys. It allows me to pay more attention. I've interviewed several beat writers and folks from fan clubs and folks like you, and I really appreciate you taking the time and giving us a lot of information about your ball club.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me on.
You're welcome, and good luck, and hopefully that warm weather gets to Milwaukee soon.
Yeah, thank you, man.
All right, take care now. Have a good night.
All right, you too.
Thanks. So we heard about the Brewers, and that is a team to be reckoned with. I'm thinking it's a scary thought because I think, as he said, the national writers haven't really given credence to the Milwaukee Brewers, and from what David said, that starting pitching is amazing. They have a potential for decent offense. They get Keston Hiura going. They could be a force to be reckoned with, surprisingly to probably the National League. So again, it's going to be a 3-team race, probably a 2-team race between the Brewers and the Cardinals. As I look at it in that Central Division, so one of those teams wins the division, one wins the wild card. You may have one person, a division winner, and a wild card. Maybe the 2 wild cards in the Western Division, and the Phillies have to win a division to get into the playoffs. So it's going to be interesting as we go forward. See what happens. Philadelphia Phillies need a center fielder. Anyway, all right. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to pull up the interview I had with Mark Zumoff. Like I said, this was done about a month ago after a game that they won. I think it was in overtime against the Knicks, 3-point game. We had a nice conversation about that. And we'll come back to you after the interview. All right, let's click on this. Hold on, folks. I think I need to restart this over again. All right, hold on 1 minute. Yes, I do. Okay. All right, we're going to restart this now. Let's see. Here we go. Well, folks, our next guest is somebody very familiar with Philadelphia 76ers basketball. He has been the play-by-play announcer for the 76ers, Philadelphia 76ers, for, I believe, 25 years. Um, Kudos to Mark for that long tenure, and he's not going anywhere anytime soon. He's also won the Mid-Atlantic Emmy Award for Best Sports Play-by-Play Broadcaster 18 times, and done a lot of other work. But let's introduce him now, Mr. Mark Zumoff. Mark, how you doing?
I'm good, Mitch. Thanks so much for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. We are recording this right now on Wednesday the 17th. Happy St. Patrick's Day to you. They got lucky, this Sixers team, at the end of regular time tonight. But somebody was on the Bucks was just too much in the overtime, wasn't it?
Yeah, Giannis Antetokounmpo is a really good player, and the Sixers did a very good job on him. They held him to 4 points at halftime, but he's a two-time reigning MVP. He this year added All-Star MVP to his resume, and when you're that good, you either find a way to get yours, and if not, find a way to affect the game somehow. And in this case, he was great in the second half, and particularly harmful in overtime, where I think the Sixers by that time had it on E. They had played a game the night before, and it was also their fifth game in 7 nights.
Yeah, they did look a little tired in OT. Listen, it's an unfortunate game to lose where they're ahead by 19 at one point, and it's always hard to lose a game like that. Though you and I have been watching basketball. You more games than me lately, but for years, right? Go back to the 70s. This happens every once in a while. When I noticed that the Sixers were hot at the first half, and the Bucks were so cold, and then it flip flopped. And again, Korkmaz hits that 3-pointer, and you're like, okay, well, you figure it's going to give them a little impetus in overtime, but they did. The Sixers looked a bit tired.
And it's understandable. There are ebbs and flows in an NBA season, and you're not always going to be at your best. I think they, minus Embiid, gave it all they could, and just in the end, you're right, they ran out of gas, and they were playing a really good team, and you're right, it looked pretty good for the first half, but in the end, they just didn't have it.
Yeah, and then coming off a game yesterday, Tuesday night, the 16th, where they were playing a Knicks team who, they seemed like they're getting better, and that got close, and they ended up pulling that out at the end. So, it was a good game for them last night. And again, they're doing this without their star. They're but most likely to put the MVP of the league. So you have to look at that. Don't you have to look at that also and saying, listen, Joel Embiid isn't here, and look at what they're doing without him, and that's credit to me. That's credit to the coach and the players.
Yes, as I said on our post-game show, sometimes it just comes down to your best guy against our best guy, and their best guy was Giannis Antetokounmpo, and our best guy was on the bench in a good-looking pretty sweatshirt.
And you're right. That happens. Let's talk about this. So yesterday was historical at the Wells Fargo Center here in Philadelphia because we had fans. How was that, Mark?
It was really good. It was great to just see people in the building. When you have 3,100 in a 20,000 plus seat arena, they do tend to get lost. But Philly fans are vocal, they're passionate, and just hearing them against the Knicks, a team that, anything that precedes a nickname with the city of New York isn't well loved,
yes.
By fans in Philly. So
yeah,
it's good to see them win a grinded out game, and it was great to hear the fans and know that they were in the building.
And that gives you energy too. You and Ala, you guys really felt it too, didn't you?
You do, and of course we'd feel it more if there were more people there. But listen, just the fact that there were some people in the stands making real noise as opposed to some of the manufactured noise that we've been hearing since the season started. It's good.
Yeah.
And I'm just hoping now that as we go along, more and more fans can be allowed in. I know the state has set up to 25%. It's just a question now, I believe, of the city going along with that standard.
Yeah. I think we have to wait a little bit and see what the city does. So right now, so before when this all started, when the season started, where were you broadcasting from?
We broadcast from our normal broadcast location.
Okay.
That said, we are enclosed individually in plexiglass booths to make sure that we maintain social distancing. And then when the team goes on the road, they set us up in a studio, and there are 3 very big monitors there, high definition monitors. The picture is great.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously you're restricted. You can only broadcast off of what you can see on the monitor as opposed to when you're there live, and you can't communicate with the players or the coaches as much as you normally would before the game, after the game, that sort of thing. So it is what it is, but we've been able to make it work, and I'm just happy to be doing games, whether I'm on the road with the team or in a studio in Philly.
Yeah, I mean, and that had to be a challenge, obviously, initially, but listening to you early on when you were not there, it did seem seamless, if you will. Obviously, you've done it before. You've done this for many years, and so you're making it seem like you're there, which is great for the fans. And I'm sure you're doing what you have to do to make it seem real, like you're there. So congrats to you on the success that you guys have had this season, getting through all this and making it real for all the fans. Let me take you back, way back now, because I think we're the same age. I'm younger than my brother, so I think you know how old he is, but not much. It's interesting. So when I was growing up in suburban New York, in North Jersey, I was a big Knicks fan in the 70s, early 70s. Went to college, wasn't so much basketball, because I just wanted to be able to watch my Knicks, and I couldn't up in upstate New York. And then I lost touch. Hadn't been a real big basketball fan, and then all of a sudden, I'll admit it, I was a bandwagon jumper when Iverson was around, right? Especially in 2001. I'll admit it was fun. It was fun to watch this guy play. Watch Michael come in, and LeBron, and still I wasn't feeling basketball. So I wanted to ask you a question. What has been the biggest change over the course of the time in your eyes, from that those 70s teams to now? What are your thoughts on that?
My goodness. Well, probably, it's funny. Since the 70s, you evolved into the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s, where I think the game got a little more physical, scoring got lower.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think what happened was the three-point shot really opened up the floor.
Yeah.
And the NBA began to see that fans liked the increased scoring. So they changed the rules even more, where there was more freedom of movement for offensive players. So I would say the game has now evolved to the point where it favors offensive teams,
mm-hmm.
teams that shoot the three well. It still rewards defense, but it's that much harder, I think, to play defense than, you had mentioned 2001. That's where I think the last time that the NBA teams were able to be as physical as, those 2000 teams with Iverson. They were very defensive oriented and very blue collar. So
mm-hmm.
Those days are over. And now it's all about the three-point shot, spreading the floor, creating pace, and look at the Nets. I mean, that's a team that's designed to just outscore you. So
mm-hmm.
I think that's where we've got to. my opinion is defense still matters, but I think in the case of the Nets, their philosophy is just go for it with as much scoring and talent as we can assemble.
Just continue to be aggressive and go for the hoop. But you watch this Sixers team, and I'm watching the footwork, and I'm watching the positioning over the season. I haven't watched a lot of games, but I really see a good defensive team. And was it that good? Was it this good with Brett Brown as the coach, or has Doc really done a really good job of having these guys play real good fundamental defense?
I think Brett Brown actually did a really good job, and his teams were very good defensive teams as well. There is a big difference between Doc and Brett Brown as it relates to the fact that Doc Rivers had a career as an NBA player. Brett did not. Mm-hmm. And, he's had a lot more experience as a coach. He's won a title. So I think Brett did a great job setting the table. Doc Rivers, along with Daryl Morey, have done a really good job taking that next step, adding some veterans like Seth Curry and Danny Green, mm-hmm. and bringing the best out of Joel Embiid and Tobias Harris, and in some ways Ben Simmons. It's been fun to watch. So, I think comparing them is unfair just because Brett Brown, his mission was a lot different. His was to get us through the darkness of the process and help those young players, and he mm-hmm. did that. And, unfortunately, I think the Al Horford experiment didn't work. And then Ben Simmons getting hurt in the playoffs, those were two things that really hurt his chances coming back again this year.
Yeah, I think Morey coming in was huge. He what did he wait 10 minutes before he made some moves? It was amazing. And then you had the combination, and then bringing in Doc right after he came on was just amazing for this team. I think he knows what he's doing. He knows how to work with his players. So you said he's getting the best out of Joel. Joel seems to be in shape and playing well. Let's hope he can come. Yeah, he's staying in shape as best he can while he's not playing. And this team has a legitimate shot. So my question to you is, they after this next week, they have a little bit of a road trip: Warriors, Lakers, Clippers, Nuggets, Cavaliers, all on the road. They got a big game on the 14th of April, I guess, with the Nets. And then they end the season, I think, with 2 games against the Magic and 2 against the Hawks, which should be really, they should be wins. I looked at this team and this record and their schedule, Mark, and I count 50 wins, 50 and 22. It's going to be interesting to see if in fact that comes to fruition, as a prognosticator. And then, how do you think this is all going to play out with the playoffs?
I think if you're the Sixers, I do think that top seed is important, because if you get that, then presumably the Nets, Bucks would come second and third in some order, mm-hmm. and then everybody else, and you wouldn't have to face either of those two teams until the final round.
Right.
Not to mention the fact that the Sixers, their loss against the Bucks was only their 4th of the season. They have the best home record in the conference. They have the second best home record in the NBA. And I think as they get more fans, the home court will loom even larger. So even before you get to the playoffs, I think seeding is important. Mm-hmm. And I think if possible, if the Sixers can get that top seed, that would be great. Now, there are certainly other mitigating factors. How many more games Joel Embiid can play.
Right.
And these days, and that's another big difference. You were talking about basketball in the 70s, 80s, and 90s as opposed to today. Another big difference is the regular season is seen more as a survival test.
Right.
And there's more emphasis on resting players. Teams hardly even practice anymore during the season because they're so concerned about rest and recovery. So, it's a trick trying to get that top seed while at the same time wanting to keep your players rested and fresh and ready for the playoffs.
Yeah, it's a little puzzle that they have to figure out pretty much as they go forward. I guess they have a plan. Do they have a set plan, Mark? Do you think that they're looking at, going on the road now, like I said, next week? Do they set a plan, or is that like a day-by-day thing? So let's say Embiid comes back, and that term load management, does Doc look at what's coming up and say, okay, we're gonna. So for instance, let me give you for instance. So let's say they were going to be playing the Hawks soon, a team that is at 500 right now, and not great. Would he basically rest them for the Hawks for a little bit for the teams that they probably will beat, and do that? Is that something?
Hard to say. That's so far away. I would say that 6-game trip is going to be a test not only because they're playing the Lakers, they're playing the Clippers.
Mm-hmm.
They got New York and Cleveland on either end of that road trip.
Right.
Denver, Golden State. I mean, those are all tough teams to play in their building. And you're going to play at least 4 of those 6 games without Embiid. So, I think that's probably their more immediate concern.
Mm-hmm.
In the NBA, you do follow the take it one day at a time rule, and right now I think they just want to have their players rest and recover tomorrow.
Right.
I would think they'll have a practice on Friday of some sort, which is kind of a godsend to coaches these days. And then they'll play a struggling Sacramento team, so hopefully that'll get them right for their road trip,
Mm-hmm.
which ironically starts Sunday in New York. That'll be the second of back-to-back games once again.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, you're looking at this division, and again, it looks to me that the Sixers, the Nets, and the Bucks are the teams to quote beat right now in the Eastern Conference. Miami, Charlotte, Boston, and you go down the rest. The top 8 are Atlanta and New York, and not too much of a threat, I don't think. And then you get to the West, man. It's like it's going to be fun. Let's put it this way. They get to the Eastern Conference Finals. This place is going to go crazy. I mean, it's going to be wouldn't it be fun to watch the Sixers and the Nets battle? Wouldn't that be a fun matchup? People would go nuts.
Yeah, it would. The Nets have a super team now, and star power alone makes them a huge attraction. And getting to play them in the conference finals, that you're right. That would be with both teams at full strength. That would be something else. That would be fun.
If they Okay, that was Mark Zumoff. Our interview in the middle of March, giving some great insight about the Sixers at that time. Lots of things have happened since then, but not much has really changed in terms of where the Sixers sit in the standings. So yes, it's going to be a battle. We know that for sure. In the division, and in the conference. A real quick look. Again, just to give everybody an update. I mean, they are still 1 game ahead. In the Eastern Conference of the Brooklyn Nets. The Bucks are next. 4 games out, and the Hawks. I mean, the Hawks are all of a sudden playing some good basketball. So you got to go figure that those could be. Well, then you got the Celtics and the Knicks are also playing well. I mean, you look at the last 10 games. The Hawks are 8-2, Celtics are 8-2, Knicks are 7-3. So it could be a fight to the finish for. Unique playoff seedings is what's going to happen. So very, very interesting, fun discussion with Mark Zumoff. I really appreciated him taking some time and coming on with me. All right, so next thing we're going to do, we are going to take a quick break. Give myself a sip of water here. Couple of minute break, and then we're going to have the interview coming up that I had with Matt Gelb, Phillies beat writer, which again happened before the season started during spring training. So go ahead and take a break, as I will, and I will be back in 2 minutes. Stick around.
Welcome to MyBookie. You're ready to create an account and start making money, and we're here to help. And remember, you can get a bonus of up to $1,000 on your first deposit. Now you're ready to bet. Just go to mybookie.ag, visit the sportsbook, click on your bet, and input the amount you want to risk or win in the bet slip. Yes, it's that easy. Just remember, at MyBookie, you play, you win, you get paid.
Change your game with the all-new Pro Rock Hockey Stick, a Canadian company providing a top-of-the-line twig at an affordable price. Pro Rock sticks are extremely lightweight, balanced, and provide the perfect kick point. Get your fully customized stick today at ProRock.com. Play like a Pro Rock.
And welcome back. Welcome back. We are here on Tuesday, April 20th, 12-Ounce Sports Network. You're listening to The Burn with Mitch. This is your host, Mitch Bernstein. We have another interview coming up, pre-recorded, like I said, with Matt Gelb. We recorded this. We talked middle of March. And Matt gives a little breakdown on what his thoughts are on the team. Gets lots of takes on the entire team, pitching staff, the rotation, the bullpen, and I believe we also discussed a little bit about Odubel Herrera. So enjoy the interview. I'll be back after. We'll talk a little bit more about, we'll get some score updates. We'll talk about next week's show and give you some information about the Victory Dance Contest. All right, here's Matt Gelb, Philadelphia Phillies beat writer. Okay, folks, my guest tonight, as you will hear on March the 17th, I believe, or March 16th, is a very, very good writer, very experienced, Matt Gelb. Matt is a senior writer for The Athletic, has been covering the Phillies, since 2009, and while he was with the Inquirer, and was with the Star Ledger in New Jersey after he graduated college in Syracuse in 2009. Welcome, Matt Gelb. Matt, how you doing?
Hey, Mitch. Thanks for having me.
Sure. So, Matt, so thankful for you to come on. I'm doing a roundup on the show of the National League, and so glad I got you for the Phillies because you are so experienced. So we'll talk about several topics, and we'll take it from there, and finish with at the end with your thoughts on how you think this team, this Phillies team, will finish in the division, which is not going to be an easy answer, I know. As everybody's talking about, with like I said, the elephant in the room, Odubel Herrera. There are thoughts about him. Some of the sports talk guests this week are saying absolutely not. There's no way they can let him come back. My question is, now that Hazley has got a hammy or a groin, you've got Quinn, you got Kingery, and you got Odubel. What do you think's happened? Are they with what has happened? Is it a humble apology good enough for him if he plays okay in the in spring training?
So, I mean, what I'll say first is that, I would remove, what I'll talk about is the baseball part of this, because at this point, the Phillies have essentially decided that he warrants a second chance. And now, whether you agree with that or not, I think everyone is entitled to their opinion, and I think everyone's opinion is fair. I mean, this is something you can't tell somebody how to feel about this, and you shouldn't tell somebody how to feel about it. So in this case, the Phillies have made this a baseball decision. They have decided that they are going to give him a second chance. And if it is a baseball decision, I think everything is trending in the direction of Herrera being on this team.
Okay.
Whether he's on the team to break camp or whether he's on this team some point in 2021, I believe he's going to play for the Phillies at some point this season. And as it stands, I mean, the more and more he plays in the spring, the way he plays in the spring, I mean, he might be starting center field for them on opening day, which is crazy to think about considering he wasn't involved, period, last year in their summer camp, and he wasn't at their alternate site.
Right.
Clearly the thinking in the organization changed, and I've recently written about that. And, I mean, look, like it's been almost 2 years since he played in a major league game. And again, evaluating him from a baseball perspective, he's in shape. He looks more focused on the field. But, I mean, this is just a couple weeks in March. And what they're going to ask him is to be focused and, and attentive for 6 months. And they're going to be holding him to the highest standard, as they should, because if he is going to get a second chance, then he needs to be held to a higher standard than everyone else, I think. And at this point, they are willing to do that.
Yeah, it sounded when I heard Girardi, one of Girardi's press conferences, that he is going to give him a chance. I mean, Joe said in a press conference that, I believe everybody, quoting Joe Girardi, everybody deserves a second chance. So yes, based on what you said, that is happening. Right now it's early in spring training. He's done what he has to do so far as a ball player. It sounds like he's hitting the ball. Made a play in the field the other day, and but again, Girardi made mention that it's not just him; it's the entire ball club, it's the entire organization that's got to see him become a better person. And now again, so you take out Hazley, which everybody wanted. It seemed like the majority wanted Hazley. Again, Hazley, 60-game season, didn't hit well last year, didn't feel well, and you had him in center field for 60 games. But we've seen the potential before that. We saw him hit the ball pretty well the year before, so he's out of the equation. So now it's up to Joe to decide whether it's Kingery or Odubel, and if again Odubel plays well, as you just mentioned, he could be the starting center fielder. So we'll have to wait and see, right?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it is. It's certainly not something that I expected to see entering camp. Even when they decided to bring him to camp as sort of this minor league mini camp, I have to say that I'm stunned that it's unfolded the way it has.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's going to be, listen, when anybody has anything off the field, as has happened with him and a lot of other players, I guess, is that more of an organizational decision, albeit something really obtrusive, like, getting thrown in jail, if you will. And since the charges were dropped, is it more of an organizational decision than Major League Baseball itself then?
Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, this was a decision. I mean, the terms of the collective bargaining agreement, state that the player can't be punished twice. So essentially, he was suspended for half of a season. He lost his salary for half of a season, and the Phillies would have had to have baseball reasons to release him. And I believe they did have baseball reasons. I mean, they removed him from the 40-man roster prior to the 2020 season. He hasn't played in a long time, and he wasn't particularly productive before the suspension. So they had baseball reasons, but they didn't release him, and he's still here. And obviously, in recent months, this is a decision that goes to the very top of the organization. I mean, this has to be approved. When you're talking about a situation like this comes, ownership is involved. Dave Dombrowski is involved, Joe Girardi is involved, and again, we'll see if he ends up making the team or not. But they've given him the chance to do it, and so far he has responded well to that.
Yeah, and it is, again, only March 7th. They just started, so it's in progress, and by the time this airs in a couple of weeks, we'll see what's happened. All right, let's move on. Let me ask you a question. So last year, Phillies had a lead in the 8th inning, and they brought in whoever they wanted to bring in the 9th. Whoa, what was in your head in the 9th inning as they were preparing to try and hold the lead?
Well, I mean, it wasn't even the 9th inning that was the problem. I mean, it was really it was the 6th, the 7th, the 8th, the 9th. I mean, it was really I think even before the season started, it's not even hindsight. I mean, I can go back and read some of the stuff I think I was writing. I mean, the bullpen was going to be an issue, and they really they really compromised themselves. I think they were looking to fill it with some waiver claims and minor league signings, and they just didn't have enough stuff back there. And I think what you saw them do this offseason was go out and get not only guys with big arms who can throw hard, but also some more experience.
Mm-hmm.
And I think overall, I don't know that it's going to be a good bullpen. In fact, I'm not sure it is. But as long as it's not a historically bad bullpen, it will be an improvement. So
right.
Just a bad bullpen would be an improvement for them in 2021.
That's true. Yeah, it was. It got to be. I mean, listen, it was laughable for us fans as they would bring somebody in because you just knew it wasn't going to happen. They weren't going to keep the lead. Now, let's get a little more specific, and I'm so glad that Mr. Kepler is gone because me as a guy in the bullpen sitting there. Yeah, I might have to close, but I also might come in the 6th inning. I may come in the 7th. I might come in the 8th, which to me was ridiculous. So Girardi's got roles. He knows he's got roles. So we're looking at Archie as a closer, and are we looking at Hector as the 8th inning guy?
Well, the one thing is, I mean, really, Girardi didn't even have roles last year, so I don't know if it was
right.
necessarily a Kepler thing. I mean, he was really... nobody stepped up last year, so he had to use guys in different spots. And, Girardi has come out and said that he would prefer to have more defined roles for the 2021 bullpen. And I think he's going to have that luxury just because he has more talent. He has better
right.
pitchers back there, and then guys will naturally fall into roles, which should make things a little easier to solve, at least, have a formula for your later innings. I think... I'm not really sure who the closer is going to be yet. I don't. I think it's either Hector Neris or Archie Bradley. I think it's possible that role is interchangeable to start the season.
Mm-hmm.
Girardi says he wants roles, but he also admits that he may not have those roles clearly defined right away. It might take a little bit into the season to have those roles sort of shake out, depending on who pitches well and who doesn't, and I think that's a little natural there. I would also watch out for Jose Alvarado. I mean, if it's a spot where there's some lefties and they try to get the lineup right, if it matches up right, you could see him getting some save opportunities, I think. So I do think there will be a closer. I just don't know that they'll have one on April 1st clearly defined yet.
Okay. And Alvaro didn't he come in for an inning? Was he in for an inning yesterday? And was throwing 100, is that right?
A couple days ago, yeah. I mean, yeah, he's been... I recently wrote about him. I mean, he's really, he's been impressive. He's in terrific shape. He was working out after the Phillies traded for him in the end of December. He lives in the Florida area, in the Clearwater area, and so he was commuting to the complex and working out 5 days a week at the Phillies complex, with some of their athletic trainers, and he's lost a lot of weight. He is a pretty funny guy. I think Phillies fans are really going to like him.
Really, yeah.
He's got some personality. He's a funny dude, and he's really thrown the crap out of the ball so far. And I think he's a huge bounce back candidate. And it's been a long time since we've seen the Phillies hit on one of these like smaller acquisitions. And so far, it looks like Alvarado could really be a big piece for them in 2021.
Yeah, it really would be nice. You watch the league last year, and you're watching the playoffs, and everybody's bringing in these guys throwing 97, 98, 100, and I'm thinking, why don't the Phillies have something like that that can throw strikes and mix in and make a breaking pitch and just make him dominant? So maybe he's the guy I need to throw my chips in on with him this year, huh? Let's hope.
Yeah, I mean they've got a bunch of bigger arms back there. I mean they really do. It's funny because Girardi joked Alvarado threw a slider that was 93 miles an hour in his first spring outing, and he said that was basically our average fastball velocity in the bullpen last year, and he's not wrong. So
that's true.
The talent is a little better.
Yeah. I mean, listen, Archie Bradley. I'm hoping Archie Bradley also, follow him on Twitter, and he's tweeting out a lot that he's glad he's here, which is awesome. And I think he'll be also a character that we will like. I just think for Hector, I just get the feeling after watching Hector all these years, he's either got it or he doesn't, and you can tell right away. If that splitter isn't working, I think it gets to his head, and then you got to at least stick with him for 3 batters, and then then you got a not as big an issue as you do this year than you had last year, because then who are you going to bring in? I remember when we go back to the championship years and the division winning years of the Lidge and the Bridge, which was Ryan Madson, which was unbelievable. I mean, I would love to go back to that type of a situation where you have an 8th inning guy, and I think Hector is the perfect 8th inning guy with that splitter, because if he's on, if he's on, nobody hits the ball. And then you can bring Archie Bradley in to save. I just don't trust Hector as a save guy right now, only because in his head, I don't think he can do it.
Yeah, I mean, I think the issue is that both Neris and Bradley probably profile better as setup guys, both of them as 8th inning guys. Neither one has really had a lot of long success as a closer. So, if you're looking for the one thing that they really lack in that bullpen, I think it is a quote unquote proven closer. So, it's possible come July, if they're in it in the division, that maybe that's something they're trying to go get and trade.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, we'll see. I just, it was so nice to see that happen back in the day. Ryan Madson was so good, and I don't think he gets enough credit even to this day as to how good he was as a setup guy for Lidge. It was just amazing because he could throw hard, and he had a nice. Didn't he have a changeup? Is that what he threw in there?
Yep.
And then Lidge. Can't say enough about Lidge in 2008. Who else has been perfect in their entire season? Nobody. So it was awesome. All right, enough of that stuff. We have to get back to the future. Get back to the present here. Scott Kingery. Now, we know COVID got to him last year. Was it a mistake to leave him in for as long as Girardi did it, or was there nobody else that he could use even when he got back?
I think the mistake was probably putting him on the opening day roster. I mean, I think everyone is going to go back and look at it now and say that he just wasn't ready. They weren't really nobody really knew what the lingering effects of the virus it could have on certain guys. And as we've started to understand a little more, we realized that guys like Kingery, for example, were affected worse than others. And I think it led to a couple other injuries that he was dealing with. He had some back problems. He had some shoulder problems. I mean, really, it was just a lost year for him. And I think he's come to camp with a better outlook on things. He has a better idea of who he wants to be, because I think for the last few years, Scott Kingery has struggled to decide what kind of player he is, what kind of player he wants to be. And, you know, what made him a great prospect was that he was a guy who was so athletic, and he used his speed, and he got away from that. I mean, he was trying to hit home runs, and he bulked up, and that extra weight did not help him. He's a little leaner this spring, and I think you're going to see him try to be more of a gap-to-gap guy who uses his speed, who can, maybe take a few extra bases, not just by stretching singles into doubles, but also stealing a few more bags. But
Right.
I mean, look, he's kind of at a crossroads here in his career. This is going to be year 4 of a 6-year deal, and he doesn't have a set position on the field. He's not really an everyday player right now. They're giving him every opportunity to win that center field job, and if he doesn't, I still think he'll play quite a bit because he can bounce around the field. But it kind of, it might cement his status just sort of as a, super sub, not really an everyday guy, which is disappointing because when they signed him, they envisioned him growing into an everyday role.
Right. He needs to take a few lessons from the young kid Alec Bohm in terms of the way he hits. Oh my gosh, was he exciting to watch? To me last year, Matt, when he would come up, it was almost not quite, but just kind of almost like when you wanted to watch Ryan Howard hit. You knew he was going to make contact, and his swing is so nice and easy. He went with the ball, Alec Bohm, and I heard his defense is getting better. So, maybe Kingery needs to look at Alec and say, hey, how are you doing this?
Yeah, an all-fields approach would benefit Kingery. He's not a guy who should be pulling and yanking every pitch. And yeah, Bohm had a great approach. I think they'd like to see him add a little more power to his swing, but I also think that he could grow into it just naturally.
Yeah. I think Scott, to me, again, just purely conjecture. He thinks too much. He was thinking too much. Was there pressure on him last year to come back and play because of COVID? Because it was, like you said, he had a really bad case of it. Probably, yeah. But, Scott's the one that's got to make the decision to do what he needs to do to make the team. So, it's on him at this stage of the game. So where does Roman Quinn sit with this team right now?
I think it's going to be a struggle for Quinn to make the roster. I really do. He's out of options, and it appears as if they're going to need, some roster spots here because they have some guys in camp on minor league deals that they would like to get onto the roster. And, we've all been waiting for Quinn, for all these years. And I think we kind of just say the same thing over and over again every year. Like, so much potential, and you can close your eyes and you can envision him, being such a difference maker on the field, but just it's never happened for him. And I think at this point he's really short on time. I do. They're getting to the point where they're kind of running out of time on Roman Quinn, and if he can't win that center field job out of camp this spring, I'm not sure that he even makes the roster. Yeah,
I don't think he comes to camp. Comes up north. So when he's out of options, if he doesn't make the club, do they let him go, or do they put him at AAA? What do they do?
Well, they can't put him in AAA. What they would do is most likely either try to trade him, or most likely designate him for assignment. And if they can't trade him, they would try to put him on, pass him through waivers. I would guess that somebody would claim him, just because there's a lot of people in the game who like Quinn. And it's not hard to imagine it working out for him one day, but it just hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, and you can't teach speed, and that's what he's got. And maybe, like I said, maybe just another team. But what'll happen is, he'll be the one that go back, like the Nationals will pick him up, and then it's key series at the end of the year. He'll steal like 3 bases in the game, and the Nationals will win the game. That's my pessimistic view on what happens to these guys. But I don't know that either because of the center field issues. He can't really play anywhere else. He can't play in the infield. So, it's going to be tough on him to make this roster, I see. All right, let's move to the rotation. All right, so we've got Aaron Nola is probably going to start. Then you have what's his name, Zach Wheeler, okay, and then we're looking at most likely. Who am I thinking? Who am I forgetting? Number 3. I'm
Zach Eflin.
Zach. Listen, Zach pitches the way he pitched at the end of the year last year. That's a good 3, top 3. Then it comes down to 4 and 5, right? Pardon?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great top 3. I mean, I think it's as good of a top 3 as there is in the league. I mean, my thinking is that I think everything about the 2021 Phillies is going to come down to keeping those top 3 starters not only healthy, but basically starting every 5 days. I mean, they need 30-ish starts from each one of those guys, I think, to really be in it. Because as we're going to get to, I mean, the division is going to be tough, and no one is picking the Phillies to win it, and there's a good reason why. But if they are to surprise people, I think it's going to be because those top 3 starters really carry them. Behind them, there's more depth. I think Matt Moore is going to be in this rotation, either as the 4 or the 5. Being left-handed definitely helps him.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of people in the organization who like him. I think, you're not asking him to be a world beater. You're asking him to be a solid, back of the rotation guy. And I think there are indicators he can be that. And then that 5th spot really comes down to Chase Anderson, Vince Velasquez, Spencer Howard. I know people are tired of hearing about Vince Velasquez, so I won't talk about him. But, Chase Anderson, again, very similar to Matt Moore. He's the right-handed Matt Moore, in my opinion. I mean, they're asking him to be a number 4 and number 5, and I think what they realize is that those 4 and 5 spots are going to be interchangeable all season. I mean, there's going to be guys in and out of that spot, and it's going to be a long season. You're going to need more than 5 starters, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
So I expect that all 4 of those guys, Moore, Anderson, Velasquez, Howard, will make starts for the Phillies in 2021. So that rotation that we see them break camp with, very much subject to change. And if Howard doesn't break camp with the Phillies, which I don't think he will, he's going to play an important role, though, I do think.
Right.
Whether it's as a starter or both. I think he could end up being both in the major leagues just so they can try to stretch him out and get the most out of him, because there will be an innings limit on him. I don't expect that he would start in the bullpen to begin the season, just because I think he's more valuable as a starter for them, even if that means he goes to AAA just for the first few weeks to kind of get into a groove, and then, let's see how Moore and Anderson pitch, for example.
Mm-hmm.
And if one of them doesn't pitch well, then Howard comes up. I think that's the way they might play it.
Yeah, and as we're talking about it, listen, it sounds like there's some okay depth, and like you said, this season especially, they're going to need that. And then if they can get 6 or so innings minimally out of these guys, those depth guys, even better. I would love to see those top 3 go 6. 7, and occasionally a complete game perhaps during the season. That would sure make a difference for this bullpen, and I think it'll make him a better contender in this division, don't you think?
Yeah, I mean, those top 3 guys, I really think that they are going to be the key to this season, and if one of them gets hurt, it's really going to be a tough climb for the Phillies to overcome that.
Yeah, exactly. They've got to stay healthy. That's the key. So let's go to the lineup. Listen, here's my thinking, and then we'll go right into the division itself, and we'll finish there. If Hoskins and Didi and Alec Bohm and Segura, and if everybody reaches their obviously JT, I really think they can, with the pitching and the bullpen increase, I think they can surprise people. I really do. I'm optimistic. Hoskins has to fix whatever that crap was with that launch angle business, and we'll maybe we could hit on that for a second. But I'm thinking that they could surprise people. I'm really because you look at Harper, whoever plays center field, whoever it ends up, whether it's King or Kingery, or whether it's Odubel, you got a couple of options there. McCutcheon in left, he'll be spelled. Brad Miller probably come in the outfield. But that infield, Segura, if he could just stop throwing the ball away and start playing better defense, which the entire team needs to do, listen, I think they can surprise somebody. Give me your thoughts.
I mean, it's a lineup that scored a lot of runs last year. I think they were fourth or fifth in the National League in runs scored, and it's basically the same lineup. I mean, they're running it back, and everybody's a year older, but you're going to get a full year of Bohm. Remember they didn't have Bohm for the first 2-ish weeks of last year.
Right.
I think what I like about the lineup is that it's got a bunch of hitters who have different characteristics. You have guys who are really good at getting on base. You have guys who hit for power. You have guys who are good contact hitters like Gregorius and Segura, who aren't necessarily going up there looking to draw a walk always, and that's okay. I mean, you want a balance. You have plenty of guys who can get on base with a walk, and then you have guys who can drive them in. The one thing they probably don't have is speed, but that's all right. I mean, it is a little bit of an older lineup, but I think they have a really good balance, and I think they're going to score. Now, they've been pretty open about this. I mean, they're definitely – I think the team's biggest weakness is going to be defense, both infield and outfield, and they're trading defense for offense. I think they're pretty aware of that. They might be sacrificing some defense in certain spots, but they're going to have to out-hit some of those mistakes, and I think they're going to give that a try because they really don't have any other option.
Yeah, they don't. And listen, I trust Girardi to be able to figure out in some way to get that defense better, right? There's got to be a way. So if they can cut down even, a third of those errors and still score runs, and like I said, have Bohm for an entire year, maybe Kingery makes the lineup and plays when hits well like he's supposed to. Those contact hitters, you do have a little speed in Kingery if he plays, and Bohm is not fast. I don't think he's that fast, but he's long-legged. He can run the base as well. JT is fast as a catcher. So I'm hoping, again, like you said, they can score runs. If the pitching holds up, obviously, it's still very early, and you have 4 other teams in this division, and who knows what's going to happen with injuries. I still think that they can contend for a wild card, minimum. I mean, maybe at the maximum, okay? Because if you look at the division, the other 2 divisions, you're looking at the Dodgers and the Padres are probably going to make the playoffs. Padres as a wild card, okay? You look at the Central, I don't know. I mean, St. Louis and the Cubs, is that it, do you think? I don't know any other team that could potentially contend. Maybe the Brewers? And then
I think the Brewers have the Brewers have been active this offseason. They ended up adding Colton Wong and Jackie Bradley Jr. The Brewers are an interesting team to me, so I think they are a contender for a wild card spot, most definitely.
So do you think, so if I had to say to you right now, I had Andre Fernandez on with the Marlins last week, and he doesn't think their team is going anywhere. I said, yeah, but if they can beat the Phillies like they did last year, they'll have a good shot. And he laughed, just like you did. I don't know. I'm optimistic that they can be close to a wild card.
Yeah, I mean, I think most of the Vegas numbers right now are 81.5 or 80.5, and I think that is a little short. I do.
Me too.
Now, is it short by 8 wins or is it short by 3 wins?
Right.
I tend to think that this is probably like, right now as constructed, with good health, I think the Phillies are somewhere around 84 or 85 wins. That's about where I have them right now. And if you're starting with that base, they're going into the season knowing that they need things to go right for them to be contenders. They're not picked to win the division, and for good reason. I mean, I think the Braves, to me, are the best team in the division still.
Mm-hmm.
Think about it. Last year they lost their entire rotation basically.
Yep.
And still won the division. I know it was a shortened season, but they're getting most of those guys back. And Soroka was such a big loss for them, and they're getting him back. It's a terrific young rotation with Soroka, Max Fried, and Ian Anderson. then they added Charlie Morton in free agency and Drew Smiley. It's a really good rotation, and we know how good their lineup is, the Braves.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, they are still the team to beat in the division. We know what the Mets did this offseason. We know the veterans on the Nationals, and we know they added some pop, specifically with Josh Bell and Kyle Schwarber. It makes for a tough division. But with that said, I think these teams are going to beat up on each other.
That's exactly what I thought, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think the Marlins are pushovers. I don't. I mean, I don't think they're a contender. But, if we don't need to tell Phillies fans this. I mean, even if they have less talent in the last few years, they are tough to beat. They are. For some reason, the Phillies have trouble with them, and they have young pitching, and that's a great place to start if you're going to be a surprise team. So, if you got them on paper right now for about 84-ish wins, they need some things to go right for them. They need some things to go wrong for the other teams. I think that's kind of where a lot of people see them right now. We don't think they're the best team, but we think they're within striking distance. And I mean, it's a better starting place than they've had in some seasons. I think there's more talent on the roster. The division got better, but it's an intriguing situation for this team. I think they're in a better spot than they were to start last season, and hey, that's improvement, I guess.
No, it is, and I think for the general fan, it is too. Just from a visual standpoint, in looking at what is on this team right now compared to what they had last year, knowing that you had, like we just said, Alec Bohm for an entire year, you've got a better, Zach Eflin pitched well. You got Girardi for a whole year. I'm looking forward to it. I'm excited about it. I guess we shall see. One more question for you. No DH in the National League. So that's that was a little disappointing because we thought that they were going to do that this year. But we're still doing this extra inning man on second base thing. What are your thoughts?
And the 7-inning doubleheaders.
Well, I don't mind that so much. I don't mind that. I think that's okay. That's my own opinion.
So my thing with the runner on second base for extra innings, I don't hate it, but this is what I would do to amend it.
Mm-hmm.
I would have at least 2 or 3 regular extra innings. So the 10th inning, the 11th inning, at the very least to me would be played as regular extra innings. And then let's say you get to the 12th or you get to the 13th and they're still tied. Yeah. That's probably when I would add the runner on second base.
Matt, you're right. You know what? Matt Gelb for Commissioner of Baseball. No, Matt, you know what? I hadn't thought about that, but that's a really good way to solve it. So they want to get the games over, right? But to me, it's a fabrication. You're putting something out there that isn't real. Let the teams fight it out for the first 2. I love this idea. Let them fight it out for the first 2, and then you go to the NHL hockey-ish shootout type thing, in essence.
It's basically the hockey equivalent. Yeah, they let them play for 5 minutes. I know they take a player off the ice, so they let them play for 5 minutes, and then you kind of change the rules. So I kind of just see it as kind of a compromise because I don't know that this is going to go away. I think this is a rule that's here to stay. I just think I would just amend it a little bit. That's all.
Dude, now I was talking to somebody in the middle of the year, or maybe I read this that I heard the players do like it. Have you heard that at all?
I heard mixed things about it. I think the players. I don't know. I think there's some guys. They've been doing this in the minor leagues now for a couple years, and so I think there are some guys who, younger guys who were fans of it because they've done it. They got used to it. And then I heard from a lot of the older players who were just kind of like, this doesn't really feel like baseball. This feels like just some kind of, little league kind of thing.
Yes.
I get it. I mean, I think I'm a purist, so I'm really excited.
Yes.
There's not going to be a DH in the National League this year, so maybe that makes me a dinosaur. But I can see them keeping the man on second rule. I just don't think it should be. I think they should it should be reserved for extreme situations. So if a game gets to the 12th or 13th inning.
Well, I love that idea. I'm going to submit that to the commissioner's office with your name. So maybe we can get this thing on the books for next year. That's a great idea. It's a great idea. Well, Matt, listen, I'm going to thank you for coming on. I really appreciate it. Probably, like I said, this is going to probably air on the 12th. I'm sorry, I gave the wrong date. I'll be on vacation on March 23rd. That's when it's going to air. So by then, we'll have some more answers with the Phillies, and some of this stuff will still be relevant, I do believe, in terms of what we were thinking about in terms of the season. So thanks for coming on. Hold on after we're done. And I appreciate you being on. So that was a fun interview to look back on. When he talks about, I took my notes here. Odubel obviously was the first piece of subject matter where we know where he is now, but with the fact that we're talking about Kingery and Hazley now opting out for personal reasons, there aren't many options. Moniak, however, I will tell you, Mickey Moniak got his first hit of the season in the first inning, and Nicky Maton got a double. He scored him. However, Phillies are back to their old tricks. Brad Miller grounded into a bases-loaded double play, left on base 3 guys in the first inning. They left 2 guys on in the second inning. The same old crap is happening, but they have a 1-0 lead. So let's go back to the interview. They were saying, could they hit on a smaller acquisition and with Alvarado? And you know what? Even though he's out with COVID right now, he's something to be excited about as long as he can keep his command. The closer, Hector Archie. Well, Archie's been out for a while, so it's been Hector. It was Hector at the beginning, even when Archie was pitching and he was healthy. I still don't like Hector as a closer. But like he said, Matt, it's going to be for the first few weeks. We'll see who can, in fact, be the one that could make a statement as the closer. And then he talked about Matt Moore, who stinks as a number 5 guy in the rotation. He just is not. He said they were high on him. He went to Japan, and Japan is not the MLB, and he's sticking up the joint. So, not sure what's going to happen with that. We know that Vinny Velasquez is stinks. He can pitch 1 inning in relief. That's it, and then they're going to start him on Saturday. This is going to it'll be a disaster. But again, it is only 1 game. I said I was optimistic. I'm going to stay that way. They have Wheeler again. He's not pitching well tonight. He though he just did get a force out on a fielder's choice, and there's 1 out and a man out first. He's up to 29 pitches in the 30s isn't bad. So he just threw a 98 mile an hour forcing fastball for a strike. So if he can throw first pitch fastballs, first pitch strikes, we should be okay. But we got to get those guys in on the offense, when they're man on base, get the timely hits, the team will be fine. So I'm looking forward to it. So let me give you some information before I close out the show tonight. Let me tell you what's on tap for next week. This is going to be a really interesting group of guests I've got on. So I've got Don Zaminda. Don, I don't know if I don't know that he's listening, so I hope that I'm not pronouncing his name incorrectly. Don Zaminda. He's involved with SABR for many, 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 many years. He's written many, many books, and we're going to talk about one of those books that came out in 2019 about Harry Carey, famous announcer, play-by-play guy for Cardinals and mostly the Cubs. We'll talk baseball stats and baseball cards. So we're going to talk all those 3 subjects next week. Then I have the very fun and talented and unique personality, Gabrielle Starr from Boston. She is going to be talking about her beloved Red Sox. She runs the podcast or the website Girl at the Game, and she is the host for the Locked On Red Sox podcast. So we're going to talk Boston Red Sox, American League, all sorts of fun stuff, some of her quirky things that she loves and she doesn't love about baseball, because she says a lot of that stuff on Twitter, and that's awesome to follow her. And then Cody Schindler. I just found Cody last week. Cody is a gentleman who just got hired to do the play-by-play for the Peoria Chiefs. Used to be Cubs farm system, now I believe it's Cardinals. So we're going to talk to Cody about what it's going to be like for him to do play-by-play. This is his first official year of doing play-by-play, and he got a job playing for or announcing for the Peoria Chiefs. So that's our show for next week. We'll send out information on Twitter, on Facebook for all that. Now, finally, again, I want all of you listening to do a victory dance. When your favorite team wins, think about how excited you are and put your dancing shoes on and get it recorded, and you'll submit it. We'll tell you all about how to do that by the end of the week, because my social media manager has to approve all this. Because if she doesn't, then I get in trouble. So I think it'll be fun. Tell your friends, and I tell you, we will give out really, really nice prizes. I'm thinking maybe tickets to your favorite team, a game. Because if you're putting yourself out there on Twitter and on Facebook, whatever we're going to put it, then you deserve something for that if if you end up winning the contest. Rules will be forthcoming, as I said, and we look forward to doing this for as many fans that want to participate. So tell your friends, get them involved, dance when your team wins. Think about it. It should be fun. All right. Quick update. The Giants are batting in the top of the third. Mike Yastrzemski's up. Men on first and second. 2 outs. Phillies lead 1-0. Let me go to some other scores quickly. Atlanta is beating the Yankees 1-0 at top of the fifth. Those scores: St. Louis and the Nationals. On ESPN tonight, the Mets and the Cubs are playing. They just started. White Sox are up on Cleveland 3-2, bottom 5. Oakland up 3-0 with the bases loaded and 2 outs over Minnesota in the fourth. Diamondbacks are up on Cincinnati 3-1, end of the third inning. Those red-hot Orioles, those surprising Orioles, are up on the Miami Marlins, the Fish, 5-1, top 4. Toronto's up 1-0 over the Red Sox, top 4. And the Mets, like I said, zip with Chicago. And the Dodgers beat the Seattle Mariners 1-0 today. Games later will be, you can go look them up yourself, because it's just about time for me to go. All right, friends, thank you for being here. Appreciate you being here on 12 on Sports Network, The Burn with Mitch on Tuesdays. I'll be back next Tuesday with those guests. Like I said, Don Zaminda talking about Saber, his book about Harry Carey, and baseball cards. Gabrielle Starr talking about her Red Sox. She is the founder of Girl at the Game, women writing about sports, and the Locked On Red Sox podcast. And new play-by-play man for the Peoria Chiefs, Cody Schindler. Everybody have a great week. Stay safe. Enjoy yourselves wherever you are. If the weather is great, go out and enjoy it. And it's already 8 o'clock and it's not really dark here. So how about that? Spring is here. Summer's on the way. Everybody have a good week. We'll talk to you next week on the Burn with Mitch with your host Mitch Bernstein on 12 on Sports Network. Take care, everybody.